What is the true price of love? Is it measured in gold and diamonds, in designer handbags and foreign currencies? Or is it measured in something far more precious, the silent sacrifices made in darkness, the dreams surrendered without complaint, the pieces of yourself given away until nothing remains? Tonight I am going to tell you a story that will shatter your heart and rebuild it with wisdom. This is the story of a poor orphan girl who gave everything she had, her savings, her dreams, her mother's last possession, even her own blood, for a man who never once looked in her direction. And it is the story of a man so blinded by a woman who despised him that he threw away the greatest gift he would ever receive, never knowing its true cost until death had already claimed its price. By the end of this story, you will never look at love the same way again. Because sometimes, my dear friends, the people who love us most are standing right beside us, breathing the same air, walking the same corridors, serving us tea with trembling hands, and we do not see them until it is far too late. We exhaust ourselves chasing those who run from us while trampling over those who would crawl through broken glass just to see us smile. So settle in, turn up your volume, and prepare yourself for a journey through love, sacrifice, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of blindness. The love that sacrifices everything in silence is often wasted on those chasing what glitters. Open your eyes before the one who truly loves you is gone forever. Before we dive in, can I ask you for a quick favor? This story took days of effort, writing, recording, editing, every moment crafted with care. Supporting me doesn't cost a thing, but it means the world. So if you enjoy what you're seeing, tap that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and drop a comment with your location. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. I read every single one, and I'll be shouting out some of you in the next video. All right, let's get back to the story. Once upon a time, in the sprawling city of Lagos, where fortunes rise and fall like the ocean tides, there stood a magnificent mansion in the heart of Lekki. The Okonkwo residence gleamed white against the African sun, its gates tall and imposing, its gardens manicured to perfection, its walls hiding the kind of wealth that most Nigerians could only dream about. Chief Okonkwo had built his empire from nothing, and now his family lived like royalty, luxury cars in the driveway, crystal chandeliers in every room, servants attending to their every need. But in the tiny room behind the kitchen, smaller than most people's bathrooms, lived a young woman named Adaeze. She was 22 years old, with skin the color of rich honey, and eyes that carried sorrows too heavy for her young shoulders. Her hands, once soft, had become rough and calloused from years of scrubbing floors and washing mountains of dishes. She had arrived at this mansion 8 years ago, a frightened 14-year-old orphan delivered by a distant aunt who promised to return, but never did. Her mother had died of typhoid fever in their village, died because they could not afford the medicine that would have saved her, died whispering Adaeze's name with her final breath. 8 years Adaeze had lived in this house, 8 years of waking before dawn to prepare breakfast, 8 years of yes, ma, and sorry, sir, and right away, ma. 8 years of being invisible, of being looked through as if she were made of glass, of being nothing more than the hands that cleaned and the feet that fetched. Every morning, she would rise in darkness and begin her endless duties. She would sweep the compound before the family woke. She would prepare akara and pap for breakfast. She would iron clothes until her arms ached. She would scrub toilets until they sparkled. And through it all, she would dream of a different life, a life where she mattered, where she was seen, where she could become the nurse she had always wanted to be. Hidden beneath her thin mattress was a small tin box, rusted at the corners but precious beyond measure. Inside lay her life savings, 380,000 naira, gathered over 3 painful years from small tips and errands, every kobo representing a sacrifice, every note bringing her closer to her dream of nursing school. And wrapped carefully beside the money was her most treasured possession, her mother's Aso-OK wrapper, hand-woven with threads of gold, the very fabric her mother had worn on her wedding day. It was all Adaeze had left of the woman who had loved her, and she guarded it with her life. But there was something else that kept Adaeze's heart beating in that cold little room, something that made her iron one person's shirts with extra care, that made her linger a moment too long when delivering morning tea to a certain bedroom, that made her heart race whenever she heard particular footsteps on the stairs. His name was Chukwuemeka, the son of the house. He was 27 years old, tall and handsome, with the kind of smile that could make any woman forget her own name. He had recently graduated from university with a degree in economics, though he had not yet found employment. He spent his days sleeping until noon, scrolling endlessly through his phone, and dreaming of a life even grander than the one his father's money had already provided. Chukwuemeka did not know Adaeze existed. Not really. Oh, he saw her sometimes, a figure moving in his peripheral vision, a pair of hands setting down his tea, a quiet voice murmuring greetings as he passed. But he never truly looked at her. He never noticed the way her eyes followed him across the room, never registered the slight trembling of her hands when she served him, never heard the love she whispered for him in her prayers each night. What would you do if you loved someone who did not even know your name? Would you speak? Would you stay silent? Would you love them anyway, asking nothing in return? On this particular morning, Adaeze carried Chukwuemeka's tea to his room, her heart performing its familiar dance as she approached his door. She knocked softly and entered to find him hunched over his phone, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. He was scrolling through photographs of a woman, a stunning woman draped in designer clothes, posing before luxury cars and 5-star hotels. Adaeze set down the tray and waited for acknowledgement that would not come. "Thank you," Chukwuemeka muttered without looking up. "You're welcome, sir," she whispered, and left. She paused at the doorway, allowing herself one final glance at the man she loved. He never noticed. He was too busy worshipping images of another woman. That woman was Zainab Abdullahi, the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in Lagos. Al-Haji Abdullahi owned hotels and oil wells and properties across the country, and his daughter had never known a single day of want. Zainab was beautiful, in the way expensive things are beautiful, polished, perfect, and utterly cold. She collected admirers the way other women collected jewelry, keeping them close enough to feed her ego, but never close enough to touch her heart. Chukwuemeka believed that if he could win Zainab, his life would finally have meaning. He would be somebody. He would matter. He did not realize he was chasing a mirage while ignoring the oasis right before his eyes. That afternoon, an invitation arrived. Thick cardstock, gold lettering, announcing the wedding of Senator Okafor's daughter. Everyone who mattered in Lagos society would attend. For Chukwuemeka, this was his chance to appear publicly with Zainab, to announce their relationship to the world. He called her immediately, his voice eager, almost desperate. Zainab's response was ice. "Emeka, I'll come with you, but only if you bring me a gift worthy of my time. There's a gold necklace at Maison d'Or, 24 carat with a ruby pendant. Get it for me, and I'll be your date. Fail, and don't bother calling again." She hung up before he could respond. Chukwuemeka checked his bank account. 47,000 naira. The necklace cost 2,800,000. He spent the following days begging. His father refused, calling it foolishness. His mother shook her head sadly. His friends had nothing to give. By week's end, he was pacing his room in despair, speaking to his friend Tobena on the phone. I don't know what to do. If I can't get this necklace, I'll lose her forever. Outside his door, hidden in shadows, Adaeze listened with a breaking heart. She hated seeing him suffer. She hated the woman who caused him this pain. But most of all, she hated that she could not simply make his suffering disappear. That night, lying on her thin mattress, Adaeze stared at the ceiling and made a decision that would cost her everything. She would buy him the necklace. She would sell her dreams, her savings, her mother's wrapper, whatever it took. She would give her blood if necessary, because his happiness was her happiness, even if he never knew the source. Mama, she whispered into the darkness. Forgive me, but I cannot watch him break. If you've ever loved someone who didn't see you, who looked right through you like you were invisible, tap that like button. Let me know I'm not telling this story alone. The next morning, Adaeze began her impossible mission. She counted her savings. 380,000 naira. She needed over 2 million more. For any reasonable person, this would have been the end. The numbers simply did not add up. But love, especially the desperate kind, does not obey mathematics. She discovered that the Lagos State Blood Bank paid 15,000 naira per donation. She went to the one in Yaba first, walking the long distance to save transport fare. The nurse looked at her thin frame with suspicion. When was your last donation? 6 months ago, Ma, Adaeze lied. They took her blood, the very blood her mother had given her, flowing through a tube into a plastic bag destined for a stranger. Adaeze watched it leave her body and felt nothing but determination. 15,000 naira closer. She returned the following week using a different name, then to Ikeja, then Surulere, then Victoria Island. Each time she lied about her donation history, each time she left weaker than before. But each time she was 15,000 naira closer to her goal. Then came the hardest sacrifice of all. Adaeze stood in Balogun Market, her mother's Aso Oke wrapper clutched against her chest. The fabric merchant, a heavy-set woman named Mama Titi, examined it with greedy fingers. This is quality. Vintage. I'll give you 200,000. Adaeze's hands trembled as she surrendered the cloth. This was her last connection to her mother, the wrapper worn on her wedding day, carried through years of poverty and hardship, pressed into Adaze's hands with dying breath. Mama wore this when she married my father, she whispered as Mama Titi walked away with it. And now, it will help the man I love marry someone else. She did not cry. She had forgotten how. Over 2 weeks, Adaeze transformed herself into a ghost, pale, weak, barely able to stand. She hid her deterioration from the household, pushing through dizziness and exhaustion, collapsing onto her mattress each night, only to rise again before dawn. Madame Okonkwo noticed her stumbling once and asked if she was sick. No, Ma. Just tired, Ma. She was dismissed without further inquiry. Who cared about the health of a house girl? Finally, miraculously, she had enough. 2,850,000 naira. She took a bus to Victoria Island, wearing her cleanest clothes, still obviously the clothes of a servant. Maison d'Or rose before her like a temple of wealth, its windows displaying treasures she had no right to touch. Security guards eyed her suspiciously. Shop attendants looked at her with barely concealed contempt. I want to buy the gold necklace with the ruby pendant. Madam, do you know how much? Adaeze placed the money on the counter. Stack after stack of naira notes, gathered through blood and sacrifice and loss. Counted. They counted. They packaged the necklace in velvet and gold ribbon. Their contempt transformed into confusion. Who was this poor-looking woman with so much cash? Adaeze carried the box home like a sacred object. That night, while Chukwuemeka showered, she crept into his room and placed it on his desk. No note, no signature, nothing to connect the gift to her. In her room, she collapsed onto her mattress, her body screaming with exhaustion, her veins empty of the blood that should have sustained her. "Now he will be happy," she whispered. "That is enough. If you believe that love should never be treated like garbage, if you believe that someone's sacrifice deserves respect, share this story so it reaches someone who needs to hear it." Chukwuemeka found the velvet box the next morning. His confusion lasted only seconds before transforming into wild joy. He did not question how the necklace had appeared. Perhaps his father had secretly relented. Perhaps God had answered his prayers. He did not care. All that mattered was that Zainab would finally be his. He called her immediately. "I have it. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 6. "Don't be late," she said, and hung up. The evening of the wedding arrived, and Chukwuemeka drove to the Abdullahi mansion in Ikoyi, dressed in his finest agbada, the velvet box resting on his passenger seat. His heart pounded with anticipation as he waited in their grand foyer. Zainab descended the staircase like a queen, her designer gown flowing behind her, her makeup flawless, her beauty untouchable. Chukwuemeka's breath caught as he presented the necklace with trembling hands. She opened the box. She examined the gold. She looked at the ruby pendant that had cost Adaeze her dreams, her mother's memory, her very blood. And then Zainab laughed, not with joy, with mockery. "This is cute, Emeka." She snapped the box closed and tossed it back at him like garbage. "But you see that car outside?" Through the window, a brand-new Mercedes G-Wagon sat in the driveway, a massive red bow on its hood. "Chief Adaeze gave me that this morning. He proposed." She shrugged. "I said yes." Chukwuemeka felt his world crumbling. "But you said—" "I said if you got the necklace, I would go with you. I never said I would choose you." Her smile was cruel, triumphant. "You don't even have a job, Emeka. You're a boy playing in a man's world. What did you think would happen?" She walked away without looking back, leaving him standing alone with a necklace worth 2,800,000 naira and a heart shattered beyond repair. Chukwuemeka stumbled out of the mansion, blind with tears and humiliation. Everything he had believed about love, about his future, about himself, it had all been lies. Zainab had never wanted him. She had only wanted to watch him beg. In a moment of consuming rage, he hurled the necklace as hard as he could. It sailed through the air and disappeared into the gutter outside the compound, lost among muddy water and garbage. "Useless," he screamed. "It's all useless." He did not see the gold glinting in the filth. He did not know that he had just thrown away something purchased with a woman's life force. He drove home blind with grief, not caring about anything anymore. That same night, while Chukwuemeka nursed his broken ego, Adaeze's body finally surrendered to what she had done to it. She was washing dishes in the kitchen when the darkness came, sudden, complete, overwhelming. The plate in her hands shattered on the floor. Her legs buckled. She collapsed. The cook found her unconscious on the cold tiles, skin gray, breathing shallow. "Somebody help! Adaeze has collapsed." Chukwuemeka walked through the commotion, barely registering what was happening. His mother ordered the driver to take Adaeze to the hospital. "Handle it quietly. I don't want any trouble." He climbed the stairs to his room without asking questions, without realizing that the woman who loved him more than life itself was being carried out of his home, possibly never to return. If this story is making you think about the people in your life who love you quietly, the ones you might be taking for granted, pause and comment their name below. Let this be your reminder. At Lagos University Teaching Hospital, doctors examined Adaeze with growing alarm. "This girl has donated blood at least 6 times in 2 weeks," the senior doctor announced. "Her hemoglobin is critically low. Her heart is under severe strain. She needs an immediate transfusion, but her blood type is B negative, extremely rare. We have no supply." The cruel irony was complete. Adaeze, who had given her blood so freely, could not find blood to save herself. Back at the Okonkwo mansion, a young servant named Blessing was cleaning Adeeze's room when she discovered a small notebook beneath the mattress. Curious, she opened it and began to read. Her eyes widened with each page. She ran to find Chukwuemeka. "Oga, please, you need to read this." He took the diary with irritation, intending to dismiss whatever nonsense a housegirl could possibly have written. But the first words stopped his heart cold. "I love Chukwuemeka Okonkwo with everything I have. He will never know, and that is okay. His happiness is my happiness." He read further, each entry a knife to his chest. "Sold Mama's wrapper today. My heart broke as I watched the trader take it away. But Chukwuemeka's happiness is worth more than cloth. Went to the blood bank again. I'm so tired. My body feels empty, but I am almost there, almost have enough. I placed the necklace on his desk tonight. He will never know it was me. Even if I disappear tomorrow, at least I will know I loved someone with everything I had." The notebook fell from Chukwuemeka's hands. The necklace had not come from his father. It had not come from God. It had come from Adaeze. Every memory of her came flooding back, transformed by truth. Her lingering at doorways, her extra care with his shirts, the way she always seemed near when he was troubled. She had been there all along, loving him in silence, and he had looked right through her. And he had thrown her gift into a gutter like garbage. "What have I done?" He fell to his knees. "God, what have I done?" He raced to the hospital, bursting through the doors, screaming her name. A doctor led him to the ICU, where Adaeze lay connected to machines, small and fragile, barely alive. "Take my blood!" Chukwuemeka rolled up his sleeve. "I'm B negative too. Take all of it." They tested him, but his hemoglobin was too low. Stress and poor eating had weakened him. "I'm sorry, sir. You cannot donate safely." He sat beside her bed, holding her hand for the first time, reading aloud from her diary while tears streamed down his face. "I'm so sorry, Adaeze. I was blind. I was chasing a woman who would never love me while you were right here, loving me with everything you had." Hours passed. A donor was finally found, a nurse named Chisholm who had heard the story and rushed to help. The transfusion began. But Adaeze's body had endured too much. Her heart, weakened beyond recovery, began to fail. The monitors slowed. Then, impossibly, her eyes opened. She saw him, saw Chukwuemeka holding her hand, saw his tears, saw that he was finally looking at her. "Emeka," she whispered, "I'm here. I'm right here. Did she like the necklace?" He could not tell her the truth. He could not let her last moments hold that pain. "She loved it," he lied. "But not as much as I love you." Adaeze smiled, small, peaceful, complete. "You saw me," she breathed. "That is all I ever wanted." Her eyes closed, the monitor flatlined, and Chukwuemeka's scream echoed through the hospital halls, the sound of a man who had finally found love just in time to watch it die. If you've ever lost someone before, you could tell them how much they meant to you. If you carry that regret, drop a heart emoji in the comments. You're not alone. They buried Adaeze in her village in Anambra State, in a small cemetery beside her mother's grave. Chukwuemeka insisted on accompanying the body, shocking his family who could not understand his grief over a mere housegirl. At the funeral, the village elder approached him with troubling news. There is something Adaeze never knew. Her father was the illegitimate son of our traditional ruler. Before dying, he left an inheritance for her in trust, 15 million naira, to be claimed when she turned 25. Chukwuemeka's blood ran cold. When would she have turned 25? In 3 months. 3 months. She had been 3 months away from freedom, from nursing school, from everything she ever wanted. She had sold her future to buy him happiness, never knowing that wealth awaited her just beyond reach. He collapsed at her graveside, broken completely. 6 months later, Zainab's world crumbled. Chief Adaeze was arrested for massive fraud. His assets were seized, his properties auctioned. Zainab, who had married him for wealth, was left with nothing. She reached out to Chukwuemeka, desperate for help. He blocked her number without reading the message. 1 year after Adaeze's death, Chukwuemeka stood before a newly constructed building in her village, the Adaeze Obioma Memorial Clinic, for those who love in silence. He had built it with his family's resources and his own hard work, a place where the poor could receive medical care without cost. He also established scholarships for orphaned girls pursuing healthcare careers. He visited her grave one final time, placing flowers on the headstone. "You taught me what love really means," he said softly. "Not grand gestures or expensive gifts. Real love is sacrifice. Real love is showing up every day, asking nothing in return. Real love is seeing someone, truly seeing them." He traced her name carved in stone. "I will spend my life making sure your sacrifice meant something. Every nurse trained through your scholarship, every patient healed in your clinic, that is your legacy. You were never invisible, Adaeze. I was simply blind." And so ends the story of Adaeze, the orphan girl who gave everything for love, and the man who learned to see too late. But let this story leave you with more than tears. Let it leave you with open eyes. Who is loving you in silence right now? Who is sacrificing without recognition? Who watches you from doorways, serves you with trembling hands, prays for your happiness every night? Do not wait until they are gone. Do not let regret become your only companion. Love with your eyes open. See the ones who stay, and never mistake silence for absence. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about love differently, please tap that like button so others can find it. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story. And leave a comment below. Who in your life loves you in silence? Who have you been taking for granted? I read every comment and I believe this conversation can change lives. Thank you for watching until the end. You are the reason I tell these stories. Until next time, love with your eyes open. Where are you watching from tonight? Drop your location in the comments. I would love to know how far this story has traveled. And if someone you know needs to hear this message, share it with them. You never know whose eyes you might open.